I see a young man in uniform back there in the back of the audience, and I'd just like to thank you for your service. We all know how much this community has sacrificed. Congratulations to this class of Pierson High School 2010. It is an honor to be here today, and one that I have not taken lightly, I assure you all. There are a few points I would like to get across. I think I'm touching on some of those that both Amanda and Caroline mentioned before, aiming high and enjoying the journey. There's a couple quotes that I'd like to slip in, and some words that I have found profound, and hopefully receiving their meaning a little earlier down the road of life will help you in your own personal journey. Aim high. The greater problem lies not in setting a goal too high and failing, but in setting one too low and succeeding. Mark Twain. Stay humble. When taking a stand, ask yourself, is your stance on the side of compassion? The Dalai Lama. Embrace the process. The moment of victory is too brief to live for that and that alone. Martina Navratilova. To me, this means enjoy the ride, and as Amanda said, to be truly good at something, you need to enjoy the process. When you remember your high school days, it won't be this ceremony. It'll be all those days in the walls behind me. After finishing the cross-country bike ride that I did for the Wounded Warrior Project, it wasn't sticking my front tire in the ocean. It was all the people and places along the way that I met. That's what I remember. That's what I hold true to me. Whatever career path you choose or goals you set, enjoy the process of getting there. Having a long journey ahead of you is something I know a little bit about. In 2004, I was invited to Walter Reed Army Hospital. It changed my life. From the moment the elevator doors opened, my heart dropped into my stomach. There was a young man not much older than any of you. He had one leg, and he was walking with crutches. He was smiling as he introduced himself to me as Justin and explained he was heading down to the 3rd floor to get fitted for his prosthetic. He was excited. Down the hall, I met the first triple amputee of the war and watched him learn to walk. What was I doing here? I was a regular guy who played video games and hung out at the beach and had a couple of jobs. This place seemed way too important for a guy like me. Surely somebody more qualified than I should be here to help out this cause. A general walked by. Someone would have to realize I had no business being here and put an end to the charade. To my surprise, no one ever did. I spent the day there, and that day was the beginning of one of the greatest gifts I've ever been given. It was the gift of perspective. Later that summer, I set off on my bike ride to raise money for the Wounded Warrior Project. Like going to work or school, it became a chore. There were days I didn't want to get on the bike. The more breaks I took, the longer the day was. After 7 weeks, I reached the Pacific Ocean. I flew back home. There was no rainbow, no epiphany, no spiritual awakening. Just great memories and the knowledge that I did something good. People back home called me a hero. They patted me on the back and successfully pumped up my ego. During the course of the ride, 2 soldiers, both of them amputees, joined me for a weekend. Unbeknownst to me, they had decided they wanted to attempt the whole ride all the way across the country themselves. Wounded Warrior Project asked me if I would consider riding again. So 8 months later, I found myself on a plane back out to California to ride home with Heath Calhoun, who was a double amputee above the knee, and Ryan Kelly, who was a single amputee below the knee. Heath rode a hand cycle. It's got 3 wheels, it sits a little lower to the ground, and you pedal or crank with your arms. It's much harder than riding a regular bike. I watched Heath drag himself across the desert, through Death Valley, over the Rocky Mountains, all the way to the Atlantic Ocean. To me, this was perspective personified. I certainly couldn't complain that my butt or my legs hurt. Reporters rightfully walked by me to speak to Heath and Ryan. I joked to them that they were one-upping me, and they joked to me that I had amputee envy. The doctors at the Army hospital started sending us wounded men and women to join us at different stages of the ride. Some would do their home state, and others would just do a weekend that they had available. By the time we finished, we had over 35 soldiers join us, and we had raised over $4 million for the Wounded Warrior Project. This is something I am very proud of, helping those who I believe really need it. I graduated at the bottom half of my class. I did the bare minimum to get by. 10 years ago, I could not believe how or what has happened to me. Don't let others define you, whatever stage you're in, because I'm a living example of how it's never too late to make a positive difference in your life or others, your country, or the world around you. Aim high. With the funds we raised, the Wounded Warrior Project hired lawyers who successfully lobbied a bill that got signed into law that will forever change the way our country treats its wounded soldiers. Doing something for others is something that you can finally remember forever, and others will too. I remember riding in a cab with a friend, Peter. A car stopped short and caused the cab to get stuck in the intersection in the city. The cab driver got a ticket and was extremely upset over it. He explained how broke he was and how much of a problem this $100 ticket would be for him and his family for the whole next week. When we got to our destination, my buddy gave the cabbie a $100 tip. We ate at a deli instead of a restaurant that night. But I have more pleasure remembering that simple gesture than I ever would have remembered that meal. Be compassionate, it will always come back to you. I mentioned how my friend Heath dwarfed my effort by riding his bike from coast to coast with no legs. How could a guy without legs riding his bike across the country for others be topped? This is a true story, and still I have a hard time believing it was just a coincidence. One day we were in the mountains, and a small church van passed us. It turned around, drove back, and pulled over on the shoulder. We all thought we were going to get preached to by some crazy sect of a backwoods church. A burly man with no legs climbed out of the bus. He walked over to us on his hands, kind of swinging his torso around. He introduced himself. His name was Bob Whelan. Bob was a double amputee above the legs from Vietnam who walked across the country to bring recognition to homeless vets. It took Bob 3 years and 8 months. He gave us a signed copy of the book he wrote, wished us well, climbed back in his bus, and disappeared. It was as if God monumentally had one-upped all of us in a major fashion. If he was saying anything to us, it was stay humble. As I mentioned before, my best memories of the trip are not the people and places along the way. It wasn't the finish. It was the people and places along the way. It wasn't the finish. Enjoy the journey, because in the end, that's all life really is, a journey. Aim high, be compassionate, stay humble, and enjoy the journey. Congratulations, good luck, and God bless.